Do Bananas Chew Gum by Jamie Gilson. Chapter 10. Do Bananas Chew Gum? Monday was one nutty day. Even breakfast was a lot of explosions, all of them louder than snap, crackle, pop. Mom said, "Yes, you will." And I said, "That's what you think." And Dad said, "Don't talk to your mother like that." "I'll strike," I told Mom. "I'll strike and just sit there and not answer anything they ask me." "You'll do no such thing," she boomed. "You do, and they'll think you're bonkers. That'd just compound your problems." By the time I slammed the door and left for school, I wondered why I was going at all. It would have been great just to stay home and watch old movies on TV. But my folks were still boiling about my skipping school on Friday. I told them I'd left to go to the orthodontist's, that they'd forgotten. I had an appointment. My freshly wired braces proved it, except that they figured out that new brace wires hardly ever take 4.5 hours to install. So if I cut a whole day, now they'd probably hire a guard to walk me every morning. I tore down the front walk, growling to myself, and when I reached the sidewalk, I looked up. There was Alicia, smiling broadly. "Sorry again about cute," she said cheerfully. I didn't mean that to happen. I thought you could spell it." "Yeah, well, you don't have my head." Maybe she hadn't meant it. I wasn't sure. How can you tell about people? "You want to help?" she asked. "You want to help?" she asked, and shoved a big box at me. It smelled like a bakery. "There's too much for me to carry." I took it like an idiot. "Today's my birthday," she announced, walking backward in front of me. What could I do? I followed her. "I'm 12. Daddy said I should write a book while I'm 12, and people will pay a lot of attention because I'm so young. But I can't think of anything to write about. Got any ideas?" "What's in this box?" I asked, holding it out to her. "I can't carry it much longer. I'm in a hurry." "Cupcakes. Birthday cupcakes. They have my initials on them, all except one." "You going to a party or something?" "I'm giving them out after lunch. Mrs. Bird said I could. I have napkins, too, with red and blue cornflowers on them. The initials are in red. Want to look?" "No," I told her. "I hate cupcakes." We were only a couple of blocks from school, and up ahead I could see kids I knew. I had to get away from Alicia fast, but first there was something I'd been thinking about. "Listen, those girls said you told them about me, remember, before class on Friday? What did you tell them? Did you tell them I can't spell, and that I'm dumb and everything?" "Oh, no," she said, looking shocked at the idea. "I told them you kissed me when we were in the trash room." I stopped dead. "Geez, Alicia, I don't believe you." "Sure," she went on. "They were very interested. Nobody had ever kissed them." It was so nutty, I could have smacked her over the head with the cupcake box. "Well, you just take it back," I yelled. "It's a lie." I didn't even want to. Besides, it won't do you any good to have me as your boyfriend. I'm a dumbhead, and you know it, and they want to give me tests today, so pretty soon everybody else will know it too. I pushed the cupcake box back at her, and she had to drop her books to grab it. "What kind of tests?" she asked, cocking her head at me. "Tests. I don't know." "I'll take the tests." "I like to take tests." "I don't. I'm not going to either." "That would be silly. Do you think you'll get to see the psychologist and take those tests with blue ink blots?" "I'm not going to see anybody. I'm not going to take any tests." Suddenly I felt like I was Chuck, sitting under the table saying, "I don't take pills." And I remembered how he closed his eyes and opened his mouth and did it anyway. I wondered if that was smart of him or not. "Well, if you're not off taking tests, you can come to my party in class. I don't care if you're not smart." I thought maybe Alicia wasn't so bad after all. Or maybe she didn't care, because she thought she was smart enough for both of us. She opened up the box and showed me the rows of cupcakes. I made them myself, from a mix. They were iced white with red icing letters on them that said AB, A B. All except one. It said Sam. I tried to take it out to pitch it, but she zapped the lid on my fingers. Two girls ran up to join her. "Hi, Alicia." "Hi, cutes," they said. I slunched over and stalked off to school. Don't leave because of us," one of them sang after me. On the playground, Wally was showing his fossil to a whole huddle of guys. He'd found a great little fern that had been hiding in its rock for thousands of years. He was the only one who'd found anything. We'd had a good time looking, though, really. But I was sure if I went over to talk to Wally, somebody was bound to call me names because of Friday. If I stayed where I was, Alicia and the girls would catch up with me. If I left the class to take tests, people would guess where I was. If I stayed in class, I'd have to get a cupcake with Sam on it and tell the bird what I was going to do my science report on when I didn't know from Beans. Too many ifs. Ifs multiplied by ifs. I had to make up my mind. I dodged inside, away from both Wally and Alicia, hurried past the principal's office, and dashed up the stairs. At least it was quiet up there, so I could think, and the bird wasn't going to call me names. I tossed my jacket in the locker and took a deep breath. I decided to close my eyes and let them throw in the pill. It had to be worse to stay in class than to leave. I opened the door and marched up to Mrs. Bird. "I'm sorry about Friday," I told her, feeling like an apologizing machine. That made it 2 days in a row. "So am I," she said. "Your parents said you went to the orthodontist?" she asked. "I'm going to do it," I shouted at her. "I'm going to take the tests." She looked totally confused. Maybe she thought I was still going to all along. She didn't even know about the ifs. "I know," she said, "at 9:30. She fussed around with the stuff on her desk and pointed to her calendar. "Sammy," it said on it, "9:30. You can scoot off to room 102 right after current events." I sank down in my desk, opened the top, and tried to straighten up the mess inside. When people came in, I guess I looked like I was busy and not interested in talking. They left me alone. By the time current events was over, and kids had stood up to read their clippings about the earthquake in Japan, and the elections and energy problems, and the guy who'd robbed the laundromat downtown, my hands were sweating. I'd almost decided to change my mind. If only I could neither stay nor go. "Now let's talk about how your science reports are progressing," Mrs. Bird began. "How many plan to give them orally?" I raised my hand. No way I wanted to write it. Oral reports must, of course, include a written bibliography and outline. And, "Oh, Sammy," she went on, "it's time for your appointment." I got up and left the room. Nobody seemed to notice or care. Is that worse than their calling me names? I wondered. I trudged down to room 102. It looked like a closet from the outside, mostly because it didn't have a window like the rest of the doors did. I knocked, very lightly, so whoever was inside wouldn't hear. Come in," a voice called out. I opened the door slowly and saw that it was a little room, not closet-sized, but little, painted green like the garbage room. There was a desk, a few chairs, and a crescent-shaped table, yellow-green, like a slice of honeydew melon. The lady inside said hello. She was standing up, and she was almost as tall as my dad. Her face was round and shiny, and she had lots of curly dark hair. "I know you," I told her, and without even checking my dragon ring, I stuck out my hand. She shook it with both of hers. "My name is Miss Huggins," she said. I did know her. She was always stopping in our room and talking to kids or Mrs. Bird. I didn't know she was the learning disabilities person, though. That really knocked me out. I mean, she was at school all the time. That had to mean there were a lot of dumb kids like me. She let me sit down at the crescent table. "Well, Sammy," she said, smiling, like she was tickled to death I'd decided to come. "My name is Sam," I told her. Somehow I didn't want Miss Huggins calling me the wrong name. "Okay, Sam," she said. "We've got a job to do. I'm going to give you some tests today and again next Monday to find out how you learn best." "That's what my dad said." I shrugged and stared down at the green floor. Green tile. It was very dull. "I don't know what else you need to know," I said, like I couldn't care less. I mean, she was nice, and I really didn't want her to find out more about me. "I expect you know more about yourself than anybody else," she said. "We can start there." She sat down in a chair across from me. "What do you do best, Sam?" "Me?" I looked up. What a stupid question. I thought, do best? "I don't know. Make people laugh at me, I guess. I'm good at that." "You mean jokes? Like, why did the robber take a shower at the bank?" "Because he wanted to make a clean getaway," I flipped back. "No, mostly not jokes. Mostly at me." I shrugged again. Like, of course I didn't care. "Come on, Sam. Mrs. Bird tells me you have a special ability in math. She says you're a bright boy." I light up the night. "You're a sit-down comic." Then And then do they laugh because you want them to sometimes? How about the math? I know a few tricks with numbers, that's all. I'm mostly dumb. She laughed. I could have punched her. She wasn't so nice after all. No, it can't be that easy. She went on, still looking much too cheerful. You're not allowed in my door unless you're smart. Children with low ability level don't come to me. There's another teacher who works with them. She'd change her mind soon enough. I wasn't going to argue with her. I just let her start the test. That'd show her. I stared out the window while she got some books and paper out, wondering just how smart people were different from me. I tried to imagine what was in their heads that wasn't in mine. I'm going to ask you some crazy questions, Sam, she said. I looked up at her, wondering what she could ask that was crazy and why. First, she said, do bananas chew gum? I laughed out loud. Are you kidding? Not at all, she said. Do clocks swim? No, but time flies. My mom was always big on riddles. Were these riddles that I wasn't smart enough to figure out? Do babies cry? That wasn't a trick. Sometimes. But when they started getting harder, after a while it was stuff like, do interpreters translate? Pretty soon the only word that made sense was do. I had to keep saying, I don't know, and feeling like an idiot. But just when they were getting so hard, I bet she didn't even know the answers. We started on something completely different. Lots of pictures. You had to match them. Like this one, I remember, had a baseball on one side of the page, and on the other side, pictures of a violin bow, a rake, and a baseball bat. Really simp stuff. But they got harder, too. Pretty much every new part started out easy and got hard like that. There were lots of different kinds of things, like when Miss Huggins laid these tiles down on the table, and all the tiles had weird lines on them, and squiggles, she'd say, which shape is different from the rest? Or she'd put up another and say, find this shape. It's hidden in that picture. She was timing all this stuff with a stopwatch, and it was hard. Then I was supposed to copy circles and arrows and boxes and stars, and boy, did I stink at that. So when we finally got to some math, it was like a vacation, or at least recess. It was real 2 plus 2 stuff to begin with. Then it got to be 5 1/3 times 2 1/5 equals, and then long division with decimals. She only gave me 10 minutes to get it all done, but before the time was nearly up, I got to those questions I didn't even know what they meant. That's okay, she said. You won't learn how to do those problems until 7th grade. I knew we'd get to do something you do really well. You were terrific at the math. Fast, accurate, all those good things. I doubt there's anyone in your class who could do so well. Alicia, I told her. Don't know her. You wouldn't. She's pretty good at math? She's good at everything. A brain. My stomach felt like lunchtime was getting close. I didn't want to start any more tests. I decided to stall. Why is it easy for me to do math and not reading? I asked her, even though I knew the answer. Dumb, dumb, dumb. She shook her head. I'm not sure. Nobody's sure. Did you know some people can hardly do math at all? Some people just blink their eyes and shake their heads when you say that 4 plus 15 is 19. It's as if they've got a short circuit in their heads and they can't put the numbers through their brain computer. If they're smart otherwise, that's a learning disability too. Can they read? Sometimes. Sometimes not. Learning disabilities come in all varieties. Like ice cream. More even than that, she smiled like she knew I was stalling. Ready for another test? No, I said. Is it hard? I think so, yes. This one's spelling. Yuck. Isn't it time for lunch? She checked her watch. 11:10. Not quite. Just this last one, okay? Then we'll break for lunch. But geez, it was awful. After dog and cat and hat, to make me feel like it wasn't going to be that bad, it was word after word after word I couldn't spell. And I knew I was guessing wrong. At least she didn't ask me to spell cute. Try sounding it out, she'd say. Try sounding it out loud. Keep plugging. But how do you keep plugging on similar and license and miracle when you hardly know how to begin? I didn't care if I ever knew how to spell them. I mean, who cares anyway? Every word, I sank lower and lower in the chair. My stomach growled like a mad dog. After I guessed she figured she'd tortured me enough, Miss Huggins beamed out this huge smile, even though I knew there wasn't anything to grin about. Cheer up, she said. It's chow time. I didn't smile back. You're doing fine. I'm finding out a lot about how you can learn even better, and the math was fabulous. That's me, Fabulous Sam. What a fake she is, I decided, always smiling and saying terrific, when what she means is dumb. I get mad at Mom, but at least she knows dumb when she sees it and doesn't lie about it. Do I have to come back? Around 1:30, she said. We'll start afresh. Why don't you go early to the cafeteria and take a long lunch hour? I'll give you a note. I think I hear a hungry monster in your stomach. It wasn't funny, so I didn't pretend it was. I just stared at her. While she wrote out the pink permission slip, I got up and hung around the door. See you at 1:30, she said, holding out the paper, right after the party. I started to bolt out the door. Party? Didn't Mrs. Bird say there'd be a party after lunch? Oh, yeah, I said, remembering. There'll be a bunch of bananas hanging around up there, chewing gum and eating cupcakes. And I slammed the door on her silly smile.